for those wonderful, provocative comments, and Marisol for your lecture, your sharing with us. Now we have, unfortunately, only 5 minutes. Try to come. Okay, 10 minutes. We had 10 minutes. So I think what we should do is what was done previously. Have a series of maybe 3 questions, and then turn it over to Marisol to respond. Yes, in the back.
I'm going to ask the question very quick so that we can have more time. I'm not going to take that much. In the Arturo Escobar called the modernity, coloniality, the coloniality working group. At some point, I made an argument that there was not enough discussion about politics. That there was a need in the so-called decolonial move for a move toward politics, and I find very suggestive your point about the coloniality of politics, but I was left with desire to know more about how you can flesh out that point.
We're connecting, right?
3 questions, then we'll have
I
to.
have a question that has to do with a couple of things. First, translation, and I see that it's everywhere and no one deals with it in a more sophisticated way of what does translation mean, and there's a lot of theories in translation that do that, but there is an idea behind translation, the most obvious one, that when you translate you commodify because you rename, you essentialize, and we keep on hearing, oh, Tirakuna, Runakuna, as to what point both of you talk about translation and that process of translating, as to what point are you looking at the limits of language vis-a-vis the limits of ontology, and how the translation would therefore imply the political engagement from a decolonial position. And that has to do with also the excess, right? So once you translate, do you eliminate that excess, or how can you translate without modernizing or allowing the political to exist within the terms of modernity of what a political is?
I don't know if I'm spinning off too much here, but I'm thinking that isn't it also for us that are not only colonizers but being colonized, the same condition that we have to take our response or our resistance from something in us, within our communities, that are not confined within reality or politics? Don't we also have to base our response, our resistance in our, if I may call it, earth beings? Do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I think we had one more, Arturo, and then we'll have Marisol respond.
Well, I think this would be really interesting for me and for everybody as well. How do we, going back to the coloniality of politics, how do we undo the coloniality of politics in the academy? By sort of reversing your experience with reversing, not starting with the Stengers and Rancière and the big man Latour, but rather starting with the knowledges and pensamientos of people who don't count in those worlds in which you circulate. So you say that these kinds of worlds and beings don't circulate, don't travel well in the academy, but you attempt to sort of reverse the picture, and that's, I think that's great. It's great for everybody to think about that seriously.
Okay, more? Okay, 2 minutos. Okay, 2 minutos, 2 minutes. Okay, to begin with, I think that, I don't know, I'm going to start by saying that in order to be able to fruitfully work this framework, we have to both undo and maintain the us-they. We have to do both things at the same time. We cannot just continue to maintain it, us, they, but we also have to maintain it because we need to work from the similarity that is they're not as they, and at the same time work with a difference that is within that similarity. So when you say we have to decolonize ourselves and not them, that's the vocabulary that, not only them, that's the vocabulary that we have to, this is a matter of vocabulary big time, and that's why translation is so important. But it's not only translation, it's not between, it's within our syntax. It's within our syntax that we reinstate the way we think, who we are, right? So both maintain the distinction and dissolve the distinction and work in that doing both things, which is not what we do. It's either us and them, or we're all the same. We're all moderns, or there's moderns and a-moderns. So that's one thing. Coloniality of politics, and going back to the last question too. When Aníbal Quijano talked about started coining the word coloniality, he was talking about coloniality of power. And what I'm trying to do is talk about the coloniality of politics itself. Not of power, but of politics itself. What politics recognizes, what it doesn't recognize, and why does it recognize certain things and doesn't recognize other things. When I say the ontology of politics is historical, I'm not only talking, and that's the other thing, I'm not only talking about earth beings. Earth beings make me think, but it's not only useful to think earth beings. So the coloniality of politics, the ontology of politics is historical. Only what is historical can be part of politics. And it's not only earth beings that are ahistorical. Earth beings are, ahistorical is what is not yet, or what is not seen as being yet. Success, for example. What Michal and Barbara were talking about. So it's the coloniality of politics that needs to be decolonized, but not to decolonize ourselves versus them who are the colonized, but it's decolonizing the coloniality of politics to allow for that which the coloniality of politics doesn't allow, which in my very quick version is an ecology of worlds where divergence is possible and where the uncommons doesn't dissolve when you have a commons. Translation, yes, of course, translation, again, translation. What translation, my work is thought through translation and shot through and through with translation. All I do is only translation because I've worked there. And it's not only that I translate from Quechua to Spanish to English. I translate concepts, and that's why it took me 10 years, because I was translating concepts. But translating concept doesn't mean that I know. Okay, when I use, and that's again why cosmopolitics is so important to me, because of the word cosmos, it's the unknown. So translation doesn't close it to the known. When I translate, I don't finish knowing. I translate to what I can handle, but it doesn't close knowledge. It's not, like Michal said this morning, it's not about what you understand, but what's there that you do not understand. That's what cosmopolitics is about. It's not about knowing. It's about opening it up to what you do not know. That's precisely what that quote that I read, and took me, that's why I didn't finish the paper, because I like that quote, slowing down thought. Okay, I'm going to stop, Sonia.
For half a minute. Okay, good. Well, thank you. So if the next panel could step up to the plate, please. We would ask all of you to, the next panel is about several Latin American cases, and then we end with a spotlight on Brazil. Zil, zil, zil.